Hello. Thank you for coming to this Inform Your Community Celebrate and Create event. My name is Mike. My pronouns are he, him. Uh, I am a middle-aged white man with blue glasses and a beard, and I'm wearing a blue sweatshirt. At Inform Your Community, we offer events that combine really important, impactful information with having fun. Visit us at informyourcommunity.org. You can find social media links on the bottom of our website. Tell your friends to sign up for our mailing list on the top right of our website at www.informyourcommunity.org. And of course, you can donate using our donate link at the top right of the page. If you are watching the recording of this video on YouTube, please take a moment to like and subscribe. This event is part of our Celebrate and Create program, where children engage in unique craft projects inspired by Inclusion Month celebration themes. Community policing because there is a lot of misunderstanding and fear about this topic. On the one hand, some families, particularly Black families, have something called the talk, in which children are educated and taught about safe interactions with the police, despite fear of racial bias. On the other hand, 40% of police officers said Americans don't understand the risks and challenges of police work. Clearly, it's important to educate people on this topic. Throughout the craft, if you have any questions or comments on the craft or topic, please feel free to unmute yourself or talk and write in the chat. And we love to see your work in progress. So feel free to show your project to the camera as you make it and when it's complete. And we are lucky to have Anastasia Carrillo to help today as our expert crafter. Anastasia, why don't you tell us more about why you selected our craft today?
Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate it. I'm very excited to be here. And this is actually one of my favorite crafts. So we're going to get started shortly. I am a white woman. I have a Black background. I've got kind of salt and pepper hair, and I'm wearing a yellow shirt. I chose the craft that we have today for this topic of community policing because the police and other law enforcement and other first responders have as their job to protect us. And so when I thought about this topic of the people who are protecting us, I thought, you know what, the people who protect us, who are there to protect us, they share the same values as superheroes, things like courage, trust, respect, and commitment to duty and service. And just like, you know, local, state, federal employees, police are actually public servants. What that means is that they're designated to aid in an emergency situation, as well as to kind of keep the peace, as they say. They work alongside, they don't do this on their own. They work alongside other government officials and other people in the community, healthcare workers, the mayor's office, social workers, educators, first responders, and more. They all work together to help essentially police the community, right? So when we need to be rescued, when we're in trouble, we all know that there's a number we're supposed to call, and that's 911, right? And through that, we'll reach a dispatch agent, somebody who kind of like the Batman signal can tell us, can reach out to the police and say, hey, there's something going on. You need to hurry and help this person, kind of like that Batman signal. So I thought a superhero cape would be particularly appropriate. And speaking of superhero cape, let us get started on our craft. And I want to show you, so just so you know, there's two screens up. One is of me, and I will kind of hold things up about the same height as my face. The other screen has the close-up of the craft materials and of me crafting. And so if you can't see what I'm doing, you can certainly let me know in the chat, or just let me know, and I'll hold something up in one of the other views. Or you can swipe your screen and maybe you can see the other view that way as well. So I'm holding up right now 2 sample crafts. And if you don't have our materials, our kit that we sent out, it's fine. I'm going to show you how to do this at home with your own materials. So what we're making—
Put the material list in the chat, just so you know.
Thank you so much, Mike. So check that out. If you don't have our kit, you'll be able to see our materials there, but I'm going to go over that with you right now. So all of our crafters, regardless of whether you have our kit or not, are going to need a scissor And it would be really great if I had a scissor, right? So I can show you that we need a scissor. So we need a scissor and we need a pen or a pencil, no matter kind of whether you have our kit or not. Okay. Additionally, if you're using your at-home materials, you're going to want to have some kind of base for your cape. And you can see here that the base on this cape is fabric, okay? And the base on this cape is paper. So either one of those is fine. And if you have our kit, you've got this little cape material right there with the holes punched in it. But you can kind of use any scrap that you have around, any scrap material. And I'll tell you a secret for those of you who don't have our kit. This is probably the one craft that we do that it may even be more fun after our kit, or if you don't have our kit, to use your materials at home, because you can use paper, you can use scrap fabric, you could even use plastic to make a different type of craft as well. So this is like an old file folder divider that you can use and kind of recycle. And this is a sleeve from a binder, and you can use those materials as well. So you just need some kind of a base. Thing I will caution you is if you're using just regular fabric, you'll notice that the fabric has like it's fraying, and that's okay. It over time it might do that. You can either try to find a fabric that doesn't do that, and here are just some examples. Okay, where these are just regular fabrics, it just happens to be the kind that don't fray. Or you can even find they have a special kind of fray preventative gel you can use. Or if you put a little tiny bit of glue on the end, that will help as well from it fraying. You can dip it with some water and use a Q-tip to just dab over the ends so that it won't fray as much. But you can really use any of those materials, or like I said, the plastic or paper, any of that's fine. The other thing you're going to do is you're going to, if you don't have our kit, you're going to need some kind of hole punch, or like I said, and conveniently my scissor magically appeared, or a scissor. So hole punch is ideal, but if you don't have that, a scissor is fine. And also it's great to have some stickers lying around. So here are some, let's see if I can show you that. Here I have a little star sticker, a little tiny star sticker. Here's another one, but it could be hearts, it could be smiley faces, whatever kind of sticker that you might have handy, you're welcome to use. You can also use bigger stickers, whatever you happen to have handy, or any other kind of embellishment. So these are some jewels that I have. You can use some, old materials that you have around left over from other craft projects. So small stickers, jewels, sequins, all of these things make great decorations. And you're going to want some ribbon. And so for your ribbon, I happen to have just a whole big bag here of leftover ribbon from different projects. So you don't even have to be picky. Whatever kind of ribbon that you happen to have is going to work fine. You can use an old shoelace, for example. You can also use the type of ribbon that you wrap presents with that isn't fabric ribbon, it's that kind of plastic ribbon. That's fine too. So any kind of ribbon will work just fine. And you're going to want to have some stick glue or some white glue for this project. Either one is totally fine. The other thing you might want to have, and this goes for the folks who have our kit too, actually, is if you have a little mini Lego figure. So you can put it on as soon as you're done making your craft, and it will help you with making your craft as you go along as well. So what you want to do is then take out our kit. If you have our kit, you can take the you have your minifigure that you have from home. You're going to have your cardstock with our cape that you're going to cut out. You're going to have one piece of ribbon that we've already put a double-sided tape on. You're going to have our stickers and jewels that we've given you in our craft kit. And of course, you're going to have your cape. So while you're gathering your materials and checking out the materials that we have with you, you can even start thinking about what your design might look like if you have our kit. with the different materials we gave you in that strip, and you can kind of see where you would have it. You can also think of, do you want this side to be your cape, or do you want the side that might have a little white with it? And while you're gathering your materials, I want to tell you a little bit about what community policing is all about. And really, what it refers to is when the community and law enforcement are working together with the goal of identifying, preventing, and solving issues that the community faces, specifically related to safety, but other things as well. So there's 4 parts to community policing that are really important. One is the idea that police don't always live in the neighborhood that they serve. And so part of community policing is community-based crime prevention, is that people who are involved in the community can, and who live in that community, can help the police with crime prevention. Additionally, a second point is that sometimes people stereotype police as like these robots who are just there to do their jobs. They don't really care. They're not human. And, you know, that's it, just for emergencies, and that's it. And so when you have community policing, it helps to bring the police into that community. They provide programs for the community. For example, I'm going to be doing a kind of job, I want to say, like, learn about different jobs at my daughter's school. And last year when I did this, there were police officers there and firefighters there so they come into the community and tell folks about the community.
It's like a job fair, right?
A job fair, exactly. That was the word. I couldn't think of it. Thanks so much, Mike. So yeah, so the job fair, exactly. So this
That's all right. I couldn't say community policing before either, so.
Yeah, but that's a little more tricky than job fair, you would have thought. So, you know, so police can kind of push into the community in different ways, you know, not just for these kind of emergency situations, things that are maybe a little bit simpler: noise complaints, neighborhood event security, youth programs, as well as these, what was that word again? Job fairs, right? And a third aspect of community policing is the idea that there's increased accountability to the local communities. So think about it. If you're ordering food at a fast food chain, I'm sorry, if you're taking orders for food at a fast food chain, you have to take orders from your boss, and your boss is right there to tell you what to do. And also, you need to listen to your customers, right? And they're telling you, I want this, don't give me the ketchup, you know, however you like your burger at your fast food joint. So when the police are more actively involved in the community, then they're more involved with their customers, right? And so they're able to listen to their customers and the needs of the community more. At the same time, they're also able to help encourage the community to give them that input as well. So the last piece of community policing I want to point out is that police departments are very hierarchical. There's like a boss, and then the boss's boss, and then the other boss. And so there's a strict kind of chain of command. And in community policing, there's a desire for more flexibility in how the police respond to and make important decisions. And so with a lot of bosses telling you what to do, you don't have a lot of flexibility. You just do the thing you were told to do. But when the community is involved in decision making at the lower levels, but even at higher levels, then there's more kind of flexibility, and we would call it a decentralization. Everything's not just kind of from the top down, but there's more involvement in decision making from kind of all parties that really have a stake in what's going on in their community. So we'll talk more about community policing, but I know you want to get started on the craft. So let's talk about that. So you have your cape. I want you to decide which side you're going to use for it. And you can kind of see which cape design you want to use. Okay, so pick your cape design. And when you think about your cape, you can think, if you wanted some of the white on it, you can kind of think, well, would the white fit? And the only cape here where the white might really get onto it is if you pick the bigger capes. So if you do want the white dot side in it in some way, you're going to want to pick the biggest cape here, okay? If you don't want the white on it at all, you can pick the smaller cape, or when you pick the big cape, you'll just use this side, the plain side, if you don't want the white dots. So we're going to go ahead and cut. I'm going to pick the big cape right here, and I'm going to tell you, it doesn't really matter if you cut a little uneven. It's fine. It's not very hard to make this cut. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. It's a very forgiving craft. So I did that freehand. It might take you a little bit longer to do it. That is no problem at all. Now the key, and you, for those of you who don't have our craft kit at home, it becomes a little easier because you can do it even freehand if you want. Like whatever shape you want your craft, you can do it freehand. So let's say I just wanted to do it freehand and I have a piece of fabric that's a square. I want to cut the corner off, okay? And then that's going to be the very front of my cape. So like this top part. So then I can make the next part round. And again, I can do that kind of freehand. You know, it doesn't have to be exact. And I could just make it a little round. Now, of course, this is harder for smaller kids. I'm going to show smaller kids how to do it in a minute, but I just made the sides round, okay? And I did that freehand. And then I can make the bottom of that cape any shape I want. And you're looking for a cape that's about 1 to 2 inches long. So in my case, I want to do something fun. I'm going to make a little curve at the bottom of mine. So if you're older and you're doing this, you can make some fancy bottom to your cape. I made like a cape. I made a little curve there at the end of it. Now, I did mine freehand. It's about the size of what I was looking for. If it's bigger, that's fine. You can always cut it later. Now, let's say you're smaller. Here's what I would suggest you do. You still want to cut that corner off, that very corner, okay? And now with this, I'm going to say you just take about where your fingers, where your hand can go, okay? And cut that off. Okay, again, it doesn't have to be too even, okay? And now, don't you kind of have the cape right there, just like that already? From there, you can do things with it. You can cut off some more if you want, and just cut off the ends, you know, the triangle part of it, if you want to. If you want a different shape, you can round it off if you want it more round. But my point is really to tell you that this is a very forgiving cape. You don't have to feel obligated to use a template of any kind. If you wanted to, though, you can take a ruler and measure it out. I would go ahead and measure it out as a triangle, okay? So right here I have, you can see on the close-up, I have a square, okay? I would just take a ruler, take my pen or my pencil, and just put, and just to show you on the big screen, just put the ruler like this. So you have a triangle, okay? So that's one way to do this. That's like the simplest, is just do it, whoop, just do it so that you have a triangle. Okay, and then you cut out your triangle. And those of you who have our kit, I know you're experimenting with what you want your design to look like. So there you have a triangle. So that's another version of this cape. Or you can take pretty much anything, like the end of a scissor, or maybe a roll of tape, a roll of ribbon. You can take anything. And this is the last way I'll show you how to do it at home. And again, I would cut the top corner off of it. Okay. And then I would take something round and put it at the bottom of that cape, or at the tip of that cape, I should say. And I would draw around it. Let me make sure you can see it in the close-up. And I would just draw around that. So now you've got something, you've got a rounded cape. And it, again, is a very forgiving craft. If you feel like you did it uneven, you can do it a different way. It's good to have lots of extra fabric handy. Okay, so now I've got 3 different versions of a handmade cape with my materials home. By the way, if you're doing this with paper, that's totally going to work out fine for you as well. So here's one version of the cape. Here's another version of the cape. And then here's another version of the cape, and here's another one. So if you're at home, you have a lot of flexibility in how you do your cape. If you have our kit, you're going to take the piece that you just cut out, your template, and this is where it's a little difficult. You're going to put it so that the holes in your template match up with the holes in that material that you have. So this is the holes in the material. You're going to try to match up the holes in the material with the holes, more or less, in the cape that you have, the pattern that you picked out. Okay, then you're going to, and let's make sure you can see this in the close-up, you're going to do the outline of that cape, just like we did for the folks using their materials at home, except you're using this cutout. And there you have it. Now you cut it out. So you've got your template that you've used. I know this is going to take you folks a little bit longer than it's taking me, and that's fine. You're going to cut out what you just made with your template. Now, while you're doing that, you want to be careful around the holes and give it more space if possible, even because you don't want to get too close to these holes, because that fabric will disconnect and then the holes won't hold it on. If that happens, you can always use tape or glue to reinforce it, or use your materials at home. So you have your cape. Once you're done cutting it out, and I think some of you might be done at this point, this is very tricky, okay? You need to cut up the middle between the two holes, but be careful not to get too close to any one of them. Just going to cut up a tiny bit. Let's see if I can show you that. Just cut up a tiny bit, just like that, about the length of the holes, actually. We'll show you that what that's used for later. But I want to make sure you do that early on so you don't end up decorating over it. So you've got your cape, you've got your fabric that you've cut out. If you're doing it at home, you don't have holes in it, so you can't cut it yet. But before we tell you more than that, more about that, and while some of you are still cutting, I wonder if you've ever thought about how many police officers there are out there. Sometimes it seems like there's a lot of them around. Sometimes it seems like there's hardly any there. And oftentimes it's the thing that makes a difference with that is the density of the city. So density means like how many people are in a particular space. So if you've ever been in an elevator and it's really packed and you can barely move, that's a very dense space. But if you've been in an elevator, maybe just you and your guardian, your parent, a loved one, well, that's not very dense at all. You have lots of space to move around. So in places that are more dense, smaller places where there's a lot of people, there's going to be more density. So in New York, for example, which is where we're headquartered, there are a lot of people, not as much space. And there are 655 police officers for every 100,000 people. 655 for every 100,000 people. We're all kind of packed together here in New York City. Now in Utah, which is twice the size as New York, okay, twice the size as New York, there's a lot more space. There's only 293 police officers for that same 100,000 people. And that's less than half the number of police officers in New York. So you can imagine with a tighter space, people are interacting a lot more, which means there's a more chance that there's going to be issues with safety, or somebody losing something, or somebody being upset that there's noise, or somebody having an event and there's more people to have events, more people to attend the events, and more security officers needed. So whereas a place where there's a lot of space, you just might not be interacting with as many people as much of the time. Now, there are other folks other than just police officers when we talk about community policing, and there's other public servants and first responders. We all work together. They all work together to help the community. To do that, oftentimes there's that 911 number, right, that people call if there's an emergency. And so just in 2021, there were over 213 million 911 calls. That's a whole lot of people working together, the people taking the phone calls, the first responders, the police officers, firefighters, and so forth, all working together to make sure everybody is safe. So let's see what's next. You've cut the fabric already, so that's great. But the folks who are doing this craft at home have not made their holes.
That's a lot. I didn't know that. 213 million.
Isn't that a lot?
It's a lot.
And that's
Wow.
a lot of phone calls, and everybody has to work together. Can you imagine all the coordination that takes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Calling and the person like assigning it to somebody, and all of it has to be done in like a minute's time, less than a minute's time, right? To make sure they get folks to the right places as soon as possible. So moving on, we want to show you one thing. If you have your craft at home, I want to talk to you about how to make your holes in your craft. So you can just do a craft. We have a little bit of a fancy one. Some of the ones in our template have 2 holes. Some of the ones on our template only have 1 hole, okay? So the ones you're going to make at home, trust me, just make them with 1 hole. It's a lot easier. And if you have a hole punch, like I do right now, this is just a standard hole punch you can get at a stationery store. All you do, believe it or not, this is fabric. All you have to do is literally punch the hole in it. Now, there might be a little tag when you do that kind of sticking. I don't know if you can see it here, kind of sticking out. Oops, there you go. You can just cut that off. Make sure you're not putting a bigger hole in the fabric. But now look, all you needed was that hole punch. Now, you may not have a hole punch. And by the way, if you're doing this on paper, it's the same thing. Here, you know, hole punches are usually used for paper. So here's a hole punch. And that's as easy as it is on the paper. So if you don't have a hole punch, and not everybody does, of course, what you can do is take your cape, fold the top, whatever's going to be the top by the neck, okay? Whatever you're imagining top by the neck, fold it over. Make sure you fold it over a decent amount. I would say if you've got smaller hands, fold it over even more, okay? And then you're going to do a diamond shape, not really diamond shape. You're going to do you're going to make a diamond shape, but you're really going to make kind of a triangle. So you're going to do 1 cut that's diagonal. You notice the angle of my scissor. So 1 cut that way. And then you can flip the fabric over, okay? And just make another cut the other way. When you do that, let's see. Oh, mine didn't go all the way through. There you go. The piece of fabric is just going to fall right off when you hit the other side. And there you go. So now if you think about these two, sure, the hole looks a little neater, but honestly, the diamond shape's kind of cool too. So either one will work on our Legos, no problem. Now, if that's the case, then you don't need to make this little cut between them. You only need to make this cut between them if you had 2 holes, which you don't even bother doing for your craft at home. Okay, so you've hole punched that. While you're doing that, actually, well, I want to tell you a few more details. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to be hole punching these other capes that I made just to show you. Okay, so although there's a lot of police officers in the United States,
You're going to talk about the history of it?
do you want to share something?
Sure. So even though there are a lot of police officers now, law enforcement in the United States started with just 13 U.S. Marshals appointed by George Washington in 1789, which is over 200 years ago. And the first police department of sorts was in 1838 in Boston. And what might surprise even you, Stacy, who knows a lot about police work, was that it was started for slave patrols to enforce discipline on slaves who were defiant or try to escape.
That doesn't sound like a very good idea by our standards today.
I think it does help to explain the roots of the misunderstanding that we talked about earlier surrounding law enforcement when interacting with Black people and majority Black communities.
Right, you mentioned that earlier in the introduction. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. And you know, we get educated to know this information, and educate is so important. You know, fun fact, Mike, 49% of police officers hold a bachelor's degree. And another 26% have an associate's degree. So those police officers are out there are getting educated too. I mean, that's a lot of education that police officers have. And actually, speaking of education, I'm wondering if we're ready to get back to our finishing off our craft. What do you think, Mike?
It looks like it's ready from here, but I'd like to see more.
So here's the fabric one we made. Here's a paper one I made. I just cut that out while Mike was giving us some great facts. You notice on this one, oops, it's a little uneven. You can tell if it's uneven by just folding it over, and then you notice, oops, yeah, that looks uneven. And what I can do is keep it folded over and then just cut off the excess that's not duplicated. And look how easy that is to just fix, right? So we don't have to get worried about that at all. And you see I have all these different shapes for my crafts. You can make as many of these as you want. They're great gifts to give. If you have friends who like Legos, you can give them as gifts as well. So we're almost done with this craft. We have to decorate it though, okay? So I want us to decorate it. We're going to get to that in just a second on step 4. I think this is about step 4 of the craft. So but let me go ahead and just start doing that. So we have, if you have our kit, we have.
Do you remember the cute figure, McGruff the crime dog?
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, I haven't thought about it, McGruff, in forever.
Yeah, he was an animated dog in a trench coat, and there used to be a commercial about citizens helping to, quote unquote, take a bite out of crime.
That's right. I do remember that. Oh my gosh. That is great. And it was a great way to also educate kids about crime and policing and everything. So thank you for sharing that. I haven't thought about that in a really long time. I'm not going to tell you how long, but a really long time. So we have these great materials, and this is the last part. This is the fun part. You made your cape, but now you have to decorate your cape, right? Because you want to be a superhero in style, right? So if you have our kit, you have a few jewels, you see me pointing these out in my materials over here, a few jewels we have, and we have a few foam stickers, we have a ribbon. If you have your materials at home, you can go crazy. Or if you don't like the materials we gave you, you can go crazy with the materials you have at home. So here's another cape. This is actually one of my kids made. You see there's some jewels on here, whole bunch of different stickers, okay? So in this case, this is a more kind of calm, simple cape, just one sticker right there. So you can use any materials you want. What I would say though is start with your biggest material that you want to use. In our case with the kit, we have our strips, okay? So we want to use that because it's the biggest thing. It's going to take up the most space, and it's kind of going to draw all the attention. Now, in our kit, you're going to have to peel this off. Sometimes peeling the sticker off, it could be a little difficult for small hands. It even took me a minute to do it, okay? A grown-up can absolutely help with that and help you, and you can hold it out to the kid and have the kid finish it off, okay? Then you can take your sticker and go ahead and put it wherever you want. So you could put it diagonal. Me, I'm kind of a stickler for doing it straight across. I'm just going to do it kind of straight across the bottom. That's how I'm going to do mine. Now, what you can do is if you start on the very end of that, very end of the cape with the very end of your sticker, okay? Then I just want to make sure mine's even. Then you might even have enough material left over for either another cape or for this one, maybe you want to do it in 2 places, which I happen to have a piece that fits perfectly for me to put that other piece. It's a little uneven, but it's a very forgiving craft, so you can pick it up and put it back down again. And I'm going to put my my second piece up on top too. So you may find that you can do that as well, or you can save the other piece of that to make another cape later on with your own materials at home. You do have those other two templates, right? And this one over here is smaller. So this extra slice of this ribbon would work fine there. If you don't have our ribbon, that's fine. Look at that, ribbon from home, right? And so what you want to do is take your stick glue, or you can take your white glue. Keep in mind, if you're using the white glue and you're using fabric, you don't necessarily want to use a lot of it. I'm going to show you in the close-up screen over here. You can just put a little bit of glue across. My glue is a little stuck, so forgive me on that one. I may convert to yeah, let's see. Oh no, here we go. So here you go. You're going to put a little bit of glue straight across. It's so little in this case that you might not even see it so far away. Let's see if you can see it here. Look how thin I made that line. You can go thicker.
I can see it.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. Thanks, Mike. I would say you want to err on the side of putting less glue on rather than more. If it falls off, you know what? You can always add more glue to it. You saw how little glue I used, and look, it's sticking just fine. It's holding up the rest of that ribbon too. So less is more on this particular craft. So you can use, there you go. You can use the stick glue and it'll have the same effect. You can use a bigger ribbon, a smaller ribbon, plastic ribbon, multicolored ribbon, whatever you want to do, you can do to get that same kind of accent. You can put it anywhere you want on your cape. If it's a flat bottom cape, you can put it right across the bottom of that cape as well. I'm going to show you how that will look real quick. Also, just to show you, and you just cut off the extra ends that that you have. And see, when you put it on the bottom, it frames it really nice. Okay. And that was a paper one, and it worked just as good with just a little tiny bit of glue. The next thing is, and this is we're almost done, folks, is you're going to take your other stickers and you're going to put them on your craft as well. So I am going to take my jewel and I'm going to put it right, I'm going to take one star jewel and put it right in the middle. And I'm going to take two little stars. Let's see. Two little stars. In my case, I happen to have matching ones. Two little green stars, which is also going to go with my color scheme. I'm going to put two little stars right on the bottom of my cape. And again, you can use any materials you want. If, for example, you had a big sticker, that's the one you would start with, and that could be right in the middle of your cape. That is totally fine too. So, and you just want to cut off any excess that you have. Okay, now here you see it on our kit, but also same thing. You can put whatever stickers you want on your fabric at home. And there you go. You have your own cape there. Now, that's pretty much it for our craft, but we have the best part yet is we have to get our cape on our little Lego hero. And so I'm going to show you what you're going to do. So you've got to take the head off, unfortunately.
Is that figure there you?
I think this one has red hair, so no, maybe it's the dream me. I always wanted red hair. So
there's another one on the other camera with the
blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one definitely looks a little bit more like me, at least maybe before I went gray. So here you go. You can put your cape. Now, this is the one that was handmade with home materials, and you used a bigger hole punch, but look, it fits perfectly on there. You can see, let me just find you, which is the one I had. Oh, the diamond hole one that I made, right? I didn't decorate it, but you can see, look, also fits perfect on there. And then the one that had our kit, that's actually going to be a little bit trickier, because what you need to do is you need to put one side over it and then the other side. And like I said, it may be, in my case, Yeah, it may be that it rips while you're doing it. In that case, you can just reinforce that with some glue or even with tape. But really, once you put the head back on, it doesn't even, oh, my head fell. That would be an emergency for the police, right? We don't, if my head fell. So here you go. Right here. You put the cape on. And wait, hold on one second. Having technical difficulties of my own here. So even in my case, mine ripped a slight bit. I'm going to just put my head on anyway, and you're going to see that it's going to work anyway, even if it's got a little rip, as long as some of that fabric goes underneath the head, you're going to be able to use that cape, even if it does kind of rip a tiny bit. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, but you can reinforce it with glue. I'm going to put on the one that looks like me. I'm going to show you how this works with the paper version. So here's the paper version, and it looks just as cool with the paper version. And these are kind of like the Friends Lego figures, and this is the regular minifigures, and the capes look just as good regardless. So, and then the other last thing I want to mention to you is that these are one-sided capes, but you can always make them reversible just by decorating the other side. And then you just decorate the other side, you flip them over, and then your Lego figure has a reversible cape as well. The only thing you have to make sure you do is just don't cover those holes, because the holes are how the cape gets onto it. So I hope you have had fun making your very own Lego cape.
That
And
looks great.
thank you, Mike. I'm so glad. I'm not sure what yours would look like if you made one. What do you think? Stars, hearts? What color scheme would you use?
I kind of like the blue star there. I think that looks cool.
Sometimes simplicity at its best. I forgot to mention, if you do have extra fabric that you don't like, you can just take it off again and kind of trim that. So, Mike, why don't you talk us out of here?
Sure. So thank you, Stacy, for this great craft and important discussion about community policing. Thanks also to our wonderful crafters, and we hope you enjoyed this craft project. We hope you'll continue to learn about community policing. And to help, we'll send our event video and infographic in a follow-up email by the end of next week, which we encourage you to share with others. Also, please consider committing to a weekly act to raise awareness about issues related to community policing. You can get informed by coming to this event. It's a great way to start, letting your friends know how to find this video on YouTube or other areas. And there's important things you can do. You can volunteer with community policing initiatives by helping out, let's say on a child fingerprinting day or neighborhood watch, something like that. You can get involved with police athletic leagues to foster relationships. You can have a conversation with a police officer. Just say hi and thank them, or invite them to career day or other presentations at your school or business. And you can learn about important people in law enforcement like Keechant Sewell, who was the first female police commissioner in New York City, Val Demings, who was a police officer and became a member of the U.S. House of Representatives representing Florida. So if you would take a moment right now to take our quick poll, and that would be great. On our next free craft related event is our Children Celebrate and Create event on June 8th, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will learn about restorative justice. Children who attend will be creating their own friendship bracelets. Tickets, materials, and shipping are free, so please sign up. Remember, only those who sign up a week before the events will receive the kits emailed to their homes, so sign up now. Our email will include another brief survey of what you thought of the event itself. Please take time to respond. Your feedback is very important to us. To look for and learn about more great Inform Your Community events, not only our Celebrate and Create programs, but events from our other programs as well, please check out our website at www.informyourcommunity.org. Our next free event is a much-to-discuss game night for adults on May 30th. If you're watching this video on YouTube, of course, please like our video and subscribe to our channel. Also, please consider donating to cover the cost of the materials and shipping if you can't afford it, as this helps keep our events free for those who can't. Thanks for coming and helping inform your own communities